International Communication Asia, the media and big global questions. So, in this makeshift Snow Day online lecture, we're going to move from talking about international communication as a whole with different arms such as intercultural communication to big global challenges and what has the media to do with that and how the media can actually help in developing countries and in solving problems in a global context. So when we talk about big questions, there are tons from wars to terrorism to environmental issues and so on and so forth. But today I wanted to focus and bring your attention to 8 particular challenges that are defined by the United Nations as the most important burning global challenges. They are the so-called Millennium Development Goals that the UN wants the world to meet by 2015, so in a year from now. Let's take a look.
In an age when human beings have learned the code of human life and can transmit their knowledge in seconds from one continent to another, no mother in the world can understand why her child should be left to die of malnutrition or preventable disease. Never before have the leaders of so many nations come together in a single assembly. This is a unique opportunity and therefore a unique responsibility. No one can understand why the soil their parents tilled has turned to desert and their family is left hungry.
So that was Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the United Nations, who said, this day and age, we know everything about the rest of the world, and we get to know the news in nanoseconds, and still there's such poverty and there's such hunger. Take a look, facts and figures. I can, you can, we can. Um, Impressive figures, to put it bluntly. And one might think that this is only an issue that, or those development goals are really an issue of the developing world, so to speak, not much to do with us. But there are, of course, a couple of answers to that kind of claim or counterclaims. One being that whatever happens in the other part of the world, wherever, that has an impact on us, whether economically, politically, or culturally. The other issue is that issues such as inequality, healthcare, education, and all of that collaboration between nations, those are clearly challenges that the US is facing as well, let alone the environment or poverty. So big development challenges are our challenges globally in many ways. So what does media have to do with all of this? Is media in development and developing the media an issue of the fact that his Apple computer looks like this? Well, there are many aspects to this. Cees Hameling, a very famous Dutch scholar, one of the most famous human rights researchers in the world, claims that human rights and social justice are really not supported by the media. We have this global platform, and yet we do very little to make the world better, very little to address these questions, very little to develop the world. And so he doesn't even address the issue of digital human rights, which would include access to broadband, for instance, surveillance issues, cybersecurity, then copyrights in many ways, as well as the right to be forgotten. So the idea that we have right to our digital footprints and we can request that they are to be removed if we so want. So all these new issues that actually are global issues and challenges that have come with digital media, they're actually contributing to the imbalance between nations and the insecurity in the world. But then there's another look at media in development, and the ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, it's a part of the United Nations. It says that actually we can assess development by looking at development of ICTs, information communication technologies, in a country or in a region. And what we need to look at is infrastructure access. So do people have mobile phones? Are there mobile phone towers? Is there broadband? Is it fast? Who has access to it, right? And then ICT use, intensity. Are technologies really used a lot? And also, who is using it? Is it just an elite group of people of the society, or is it everybody? And what do people do with that? What kind of skills do they have? Is it simple texting, or do they create content to multiple platforms? Do they engage in e-commerce and so on and so forth? And then comes ICT impact. So what kind of impact actually media and media technologies can have depends on all of this. And then the World Bank, in the article that you read, has a little bit of a different approach, kind of complementary approach, where they really talk about the media sphere as a whole. And they start from the very core of plurality and transparency. So the traditional role of journalism, for instance, or the press, has been to be the watchdog and look after our interests and let us know what we need to know as informed citizens or even consumers. Then, of course, we have the behavioral part of the media, meaning it's campaigns for us to behave and consume more healthily. All of us know those. Or we've talked about Turkey, the Gezi Park, and the way social media was used to mobilize people, so change people's behavior. They left their homes, went to protest, and wanted to contest and confront the government and those in power. So behavioral change that the media can provoke. And then infrastructure and platform. So the more compelling media we have and the more developed the media is, the more ready all kinds of infrastructure and platform builders, the companies that deal with that, are to invest in new infrastructure. And at the same time, we need faster, better, more developed infrastructure to have better businesses and take part in, for instance, e-commerce in the world, or to be able to act online as citizens, get information, do e-voting, whatnot. Then the World Bank report talks about the economic benefits of the media sector. They provide jobs, that's for sure. But even more importantly, media goods are tradable. So we've talked about the Los Angeles model, the flow from west to the rest, right? But we also know that there are counterflows, the flows from K-pop South Korea and Bollywood India to the rest of the world. And that is creating commerce. Also, we should not forget that communication technologies facilitate other kinds of trade, for instance, the entire global financial market. So some examples of how the media can help. This is case India. Transparency and participation. Many Indian parties are now engaged in social media, trying to be more transparent. Also, ordinary citizens are using social media to engage and to demonstrate and to be politically active. So a year ago, you might remember, it became global news that there was a horrible gang rape in Delhi, which turned out to be kind of everyday reality. And somebody started a Facebook page, for instance, for that. Also, this is a picture of a recent protest against corruption. While not everybody in India might have smartphones, most people have cell phone. At least they can text, they can mobilize, they can take pictures and document. So this was from an anti-corruption protest. Then we have the economic benefits. This is an Indian fisherman, and a very classic, very often told example is that Indian fishermen have created this very simple, very cheap way of texting and leaving sort of empty messages to one another, to kind of, it's almost like a Morse code, the way they can then coordinate their activities. So let's say one market has already too many fishermen selling their fishes there. What happens is that they send a message to their colleagues, and so the colleagues know that there's no use to travel to that market, they go to a different market. So they are able to act more efficiently and more economically for the economic benefit. A classic case, Indian fishermen. Then talking about different platforms and infrastructures and things created, one of the most famous Indian companies, Infosys, and one of the former CEOs, has actually started a campaign to create a new platform and a new database to track and create identities for Indians. There are millions and millions of Indians who are in no official records, and of course, would something happen to them, they can't get healthcare, they can't get legal assistance, and of course, very often these are Indians that perhaps are not economically in the middle class or upper class. They're often very poor. So he is using media technologies to create this new kind of platform where to actually track those and give identities to those who are now not recorded anywhere. Then we have the business side. As I said, Bollywood producing more films than Hollywood annually, has become a big business, is exporting to all over the world, thanks to the diasporic communities of Indians residing all around the world, but then also because of that, thanks to other consumers, fans of Bollywood culture. And then we have the issue of behavioral change. I want to show you just a short clip of a video that has been created particularly to educate people about the Dalits, the untouchables, and educate Dalits themselves of their human rights.
எங்க ஊர்ல வந்து கள்ள வீட்டுக்காரங்க பள்ள வீடை தான் ரொம்ப சீப்பா நினைப்பாங்க. குழாயில தண்ணி பிடிக்க போனோம்னா கூட அவங்க தான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் பிடிக்கணும், அதுக்கடுத்து தான் நாங்க பிடிக்கணும். ஏன் நாங்க தான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வருஷம் அப்படின்னு சொன்னாலும் நீ என்ன இவ்வளோ வாய் பேசுற, ஜாதி இந்த ஜாதி வச்சுக்கிட்டு இவ்வளோ இது பண்ற அப்படின்னா கேலியா பேசுவாங்க.
The community of people who formerly were known as the untouchables of this country, who are popularly known today as Dalits, the people who are upper caste, consider them to be impure. For a young boy running into school, just because he comes from the Dalit community, he may not be allowed to eat along with the others because the spillover from his plate should not fall into somebody else's plate. And it is a matter which affects and hurts very deeply the soul of the Dalit.
So People's Watch has created these kind of educational videos to educate the Dalit community and others of the human rights. So global issues and the media have very many angles, and it also and the whole issue has to do with the fact that because of social media and technology, a lot of new actors are a part of global questions. Of course, we have the global business and global marketing and global goods, and that has to do with big global issues like here.
Commodification of water does not create water. All it does is steal water from the communities who had that water earlier, but do not have the purchasing power to play the game in the marketplace of water. Till agencies like Coca-Cola came with capacity to mine 2 million liters of water per day, there was no really big reason to have a written law on how groundwater should be managed.
The protests were a surprise in the beginning, but we've learned some valuable lessons from that, and one of them is that we should probably have engaged the community much sooner in that discussion.
Vice President of Coca-Cola of the U.S. said to me, well, they won't talk about a compromise. And I said, you're there taking their water. Their valleys and their farms are running out of water. Their kids don't have any water to drink. The compromise is you leave. There's no compromise here. What are you doing here?
So big corporations like Coke, of course, exist globally because of marketing and global advertising. So in that way, they are part of the sort of global challenges, for instance, environmental challenges. But digital and social media have given tools to organizations, to stakeholders beyond the usual suspects, governments, international organizations such as the UN, or businesses. It's given the voice to individual citizens to be part of issuing global issues. And here's an example, just a little clip from a Human Rights Watch awareness raising documentation about challenges in Russia. This was posted very recently to coincide, of course, with the Sochi Olympics. Human Rights Watch is a so-called non-governmental organization dedicated to documenting human rights violations and giving the victims voice. So just a little look. This is a very disturbing video. You can go on YouTube and search for it if you want to see it, all of it. You'll see.
Хули ты так одет, ебать?
В смысле,
А?
я с тематической вечеринки.
На нахуй.
Human Rights Watch has documented a large number of vicious attacks and aggressive harassment of LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in Russia.
Еще раз так оденешься, хуеплет, блядь.
It's happening in the context of the homophobic legislation that bans propaganda of non-traditional sexual relationships among minors. A vigilante group, Occupy Pedophilia, essentially uses the pretext of protecting children, of fighting pedophilia, to harass and attack gay people.
Нет, ты пойдешь с нами.
So you get the point. So that is, of course, part documenting global challenges, making people aware where they're happening, where traditional mass media doesn't go to, and then ordinary citizens making a difference. Here's another video related to the Olympics.
Just days before the start of the Olympic Winter Games in Sochi, a Swedish website has released this short film. 2,000 people gathered at the Olympic Stadium in Stockholm to sing the Russian national anthem under rainbow flags to show their support for lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender communities and oppose Russia's anti-LGBT legislation. The emotive video starts with a young girl singing alone before a boy joins in, and the stadium then fills up with a diverse range of people, symbolising all ages, races and sexualities. As they sing the anthem, they're surrounded by rainbow-coloured flags, including a giant one on the screen behind them. The video was filmed on the 6th of October, the day when Russian President Vladimir Putin gave start to the Olympic torch relay in Moscow, but it was only posted on the internet on the 30th of January, receiving almost 400,000 views in the first few days. The video ends with a young girl singing the closing line, "Glory to our country, we are proud of you," before releasing a heart-shaped balloon into the sky.
So awareness raising in a little bit more peaceful way. Your assignment for next time is to look into these global issues with the help of your colleagues from Communication Arts 3103, Communication and Global Development. That group is writing actually 6 blogs, each of them focused on one Millennium Development Goal, so 6 of the 8 goals, and kind of with a broader theme. So I want you to go and explore those blogs and post a comment to at least 2 blog posts, meaning in 2 different blogs. So you find the link below. It looks like this. Here you find their blog post. And see what your peers in that class think about the media and development, and think about what you might learn, what would be some takeaways for International Communication Asia. Stay safe, stay warm, and happy Valentine's Day for tomorrow. I see you in a week's time on Thursday, the 20th of February.